Good afternoon. My name is Ursilia Mata-Ubisu, and I'm with the Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs. It is a pleasure to be with you again as we are about to get into our second episode of the Andy G20 Entrepreneurship Learning Series. For this session, we had the pleasure of partnering with another one of our members that is also making huge strides in the space of women entrepreneurship, women creating wealth, women, in terms of access to finance, and really elevating those voices. And that is the Graça Machel Trust. So thank you very much for the Graça Machel Trust for being in the room. I'm going to pass this on and invite everyone in the room to introduce themselves, because not only do we have Graça Machel Trust, but we also have a representative from New Faces, New Voices, as well as one of the entrepreneurs that has been supported through the program, the Women Creating Wealth program of the Graça Machel Trust. So today's conversation, you guessed it, is about women and creating wealth. So we are linking this to the engagement group discussions of the W20, so the Women 20, and we would really like to get from it perspectives and recommendations and practical actions that may have come out from this discussion that would link into the practical implementation of some of the policy recommendations made through the W20, and not just in South Africa, but throughout the continent. So, over to my guests. Majvita, can I ask you to please introduce yourself and then pass that on? Who are you? Who are you with? And why was being in this room important?
Okay, great. Thank you for having me, Asilia. My name is Majvita Maradzika, and I am an investment principal at the Afrishella Fund, which is a gender lens climatic-themed fund that is sponsored by the Graça Machel Trust. I wear two hats. I also do sit within the Graça Machel Trust in the Access to Finance pillar. As you all know, the relationship with the Graça Machel Trust and Andy spans many, many years. And ultimately, this was a good partnership to come and speak to women, considering that part of our strategic goals speak to accelerating women's economic advancements, powering Pan-African social economic transformation through collective action, championing Pan-African adolescent girls as change agents, archiving the legacies of African women leaders, and then, of course, institutional strengthening and building sustainably. And so this speaks to me in the sense that while I work at Afrishella and GMT, I've always had a passion for gender lens investing. My background is private equity and venture capital. I have a history of working in women-owned investment holding businesses that have ventured into spaces that women have not been in the space before, such as infrastructure. And so there was a natural progression that pulled me through to the work that the Graça Machel Trust does, and then Afrishella. It combines the skills and expertise of what I've always worked in. So it's a full circle moment being here.
Yeah.
And I think being in this room with you all allows me to contribute and put a voice. This session has allowed me to give a voice to all of the things that I've experienced in the past pertaining to women, the challenges women are facing, what we can do to make a change. So I think I'm quite happy to be here. I feel this is a well-placed place to be, actually. Yeah, so thank you for that.
No, it's our pleasure to have you here, and certainly bringing in all of those experiences, and those perspectives, which made for really interesting conversations. But we'll get into that in a second. Zimkita, welcome.
Thank you.
Please tell us a little bit about who you are and who you're representing in the room, because you do tend to wear a couple of hats yourself.
Okay. My name is Zimkita Kova. I am like you say, I'm wearing two hats. I am the founder and chairperson of an organization called Africa Women Financial Inclusion Initiative. which is then tasked with the responsibility to establish New Faces, New Voices South Africa, which is a flagship program, one of the flagship programs of the Graça Machel Trust, and with the focus on advancing women financial inclusion in Africa. So we are establishing the South African chapter, which was relaunched in May this year. So the work within, in fact, what brought us the partnership with the Graça Machel Trust is because of the work that we're doing as Africa Women Financial Inclusion Initiative, which is focusing on advancing women financial inclusion, not only in South Africa, but in Africa. We are a Pan-African organization, which is something very close to my heart. I have a passion, or I've always had a passion for women economic empowerment and also entrepreneurship development. So this work for me, Alfie and New Faces, New Voices, it just brought it all together.
Yeah.
It gave me a meaning with, so this is it, I'm happy to be in this room. In fact, I thank the G20, because before I started this work in women financial inclusion, back in 2023, when we first hosted our first Women Financial Inclusion Dialogue, it was called Hey Economy, there was nothing happening. Like, it was doing research, trying to see what's happening within women financial inclusion within South Africa. There was nothing. Yes, there was a framework that was passed in 2019 by the department. And when you try to follow up as to what's happening, there were no answers really. But the G20 has brought that to life, because all of a sudden now you hear people in their corners are doing something, but nobody, like, we didn't know.
Right.
There was no presence of the ecosystem. But now with the G20, you realize, oh man, so there's this organization that's doing this work. So being in these rooms or being here today, number one, it was critical for me and also important for me, first, to network with everyone within the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Because we focus on leadership development and also on entrepreneurship development. So meeting people, the representation in the room today was key for us. And also being the voice, because we work in the grassroots level. Whatever, I always say to people, when you're given an opportunity, it's not for you. It's for people that do not have access to those rooms. You have to take it back.
Right.
So for me, being here, being an ear and also a voice for the disadvantaged, for the ones who have no opportunity to be here, for the ones that are in the rural areas.
Yeah.
Because also the work that we are doing, we focus a lot, or in fact, with this work we're doing for New Faces, New Voices, we are going to be going around all 9 provinces in South Africa, disseminating the results of the study done by the GMT on the status of women financial inclusion. So we are going to go to the rural areas as well. We're not only going to urban, we're going to the rural. So being here is really key for us, to be an ear, so that whatever we get here, we take it back to them. And also then we come back with whatever they've given us, we come back to these rooms and then representing
yes,
it, which
absolutely.
is important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Being a voice, an ear, and a face, right? So, I mean, that's super, super exciting for all of us. And like you said earlier today, no pressure, but we're all excited about the chapter. I have personally, had the opportunity, the privilege of actually seeing the work that New Faces, New Voices has been doing in Mozambique, and when that was founded, and so super excited. Christine, welcome. Tell us a little bit about you, and also how you came into this room and what you came into this room with, looking for.
My name is Christine Nyachoto. I am the head interior decorator at My Sprucer, which is an interior decor and design company, formed in 2019, and we've been running since. And
in 2024, I was invited, I applied to be part of the Women Creating Wealth program, which is for entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs, and with the idea to grow our wealth to a certain, is it 10,000 women to grow their wealth to 5 million
Wow.
in a certain period of time. And so I'm part of that program, and coming into this room today has allowed me to realize that as entrepreneurs, it's not just being taught what entrepreneurship is about. I have an accounting background, but the running a business in the most practical way was through the Graça Machel Trust. And it's things like how you handle money that we learned there, which I never thought was something I really needed to process what my relationship with money was, amongst many other things. So relationship with money and being in these spaces and knowing that there are people who can relay the problems that we have and they're working on the solutions, and to participate in, relaying these problems and my own way of resolving them, and having someone hear that and be able to take it up a notch to the people who are responsible for making policies is a big deal for me. And not just for me, I feel like for the other female entrepreneurs, because the problems I have are not just myself. They are from a group of women I have interacted with through the Graça Machel Trust.
Okay. No, that's fantastic. And thank you and welcome and I think that's one of the things that we, you mentioned networking and the importance of that. And earlier we had also spoken about the importance of, the power of networks. And as women that we're the best at networking. We do everything in groups, right? The simplest of things, we cook together, we sing together, all the way to we save together, we invest together. So, elevating these to a level where, it also elevates our voices so that, it can be heard at policy making level is really, really important, and really the reason why we thought it was so important to have this conversation. So I'd love to just kind of ask you guys as well, we had some very interesting conversations. So for those who weren't in the room with us, we started off with a nice context setting, and where we heard about some of the evidence that the Graça Machel Trust had through its different interventions, gathered around the different things that can be done to really expand and go deeper around women financial inclusion, and not just in terms of being able to access money, but also being able to like you said, the relationship with money, the capacity to invest and to access larger amounts to invest, and also even to think about where and the markets that we would want to invest in. And we also had a really interesting conversation going back into recognizing that the conversations around money should not begin when we have money to spend, but rather, they should come right from the beginning, right? So in terms of, as we're growing up, so we can be indeed familiar, confident, friendly with the concept of making money, of spending money, of, investing money, or whatever the case may be. So I'd love to hear from you, because you were, as we split out into different groups, you were in different groups looking at different themes. So what, if you had to pick one thing that really stood out for you from the conversation and the discussion that we had, what would that be? Should we start back to front now? And Christine, do you want to?
Okay, so my topic was advocacy for gender responsive policies. So I think the biggest thing for me was that, yes, there are platforms. There's a Graça Machel Trust that brings in people who teach the women about import, export, and what that entails, the ACFTA, and we have people who make policies or part of the policy making. They bring them in, and then there's that communication between the entrepreneurs and those people.
Yeah.
But then how do we then take it up a notch, and how do we relay this information to the person in the rural areas for them to understand that? And one of the biggest thing for me that made me happy is an understatement, but that excited me, was the fact that we don't have women in the rural areas being given this information in their home languages.
Yeah.
So being able to provide that for them is something that's really exciting, because now they might be able to understand better and maybe want to grow beyond the Stockville, possibly.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe it's lack of information that we felt the women in the rural areas are lacking, and that once it's relayed to them and they can relay back to possibly female people in the policymaking business, then maybe the gap is bridged and not too big or miss information along the way.
Yeah, I mean, and that's Zim, that's kind of what you were talking about as well, right? The importance of taking this information, broadly from outside, not just within, urban centers, but actually across the country, and to engage with women at different levels, and also in different spaces, in rural spaces as well, and in the languages that they understand, because that also then gives them the opportunity to give feedback and to understand, and then to also want to contribute into policy. Someone actually mentioned that as part of the policy the policy development process, there is also always an opportunity for the public to give input into. But if the public does not know or understand what it is that they're inputting into, then they won't contribute. So that's thank you for that point, Christine. So I do want to, with that, just kind of hand it back to you, Zim. What kind of stood out for you from those conversations?
Okay, I was in the group that was focusing on access to markets. And I think the main point was exploring mechanisms and platforms that could enable African women and youth entrepreneurs to access and grow in regional markets. This, for me, I found that it was an exciting topic. In fact, what came to mind immediately when I saw this was the platforms like Women Creating Wealth. Because it's not only South African based, it's got women in other regions as well. I think is it Kenya, and I might not have them all, but in an event I attended about a few months ago, where we were celebrating women that graduated from that program. One thing they mentioned was that with the last cohort, I think they had an opportunity to connect women across the regions, There and there, that's giving access to market, to regional markets outside South Africa. Because there, let's say you are looking for a product, you want to source a product that is not in South Africa, but another lady who is in Tanzania has access to that.
Yeah.
Now it opens markets without even going far. So it then brings to me the element of networks, that networks, they play a big role. Yes, policy has its place. Yes, government, they've got their own land, but the importance of networking, that, that I truly, truly believe in that saying that your net worth is equal to your network. You have to, because it's a matter of me calling Marju, hey, I'm looking for this and this and this. Do you know anyone who does that? I'm looking for ladies in Kenya. There's such and such. Now, platforms like that, they give you that access. Then you can start from there. So for me, really, networks.
Yeah.
Importance of networks. I believe in not doing things in solidarity, but coming together. Like, I think you were the one who mentioned that even when other big companies, when they go and open established branches in other areas, they go, yes, they've got capital, but you find that they will not go solo. So as Africans, as women, we need to learn or replicate that, or just find each other, that sisterhood in business. Now imagine a sisterhood of women in South Africa, a group of women. There's women in South Africa, Tanzania, in all these African countries, and we come together and we are able to trade within one another.
Exactly.
That's, for me is
Because between ourselves or amongst ourselves, we can identify all the different skills and resources that we need. The accountants
Exactly.
and the with the auditors. You also have the ones who actually understand the trade market, the ones who understand the agricultural economists, and essentially you can within that network.
you just tap within the network.
Exactly.
Yes.
And when you hear that there are opportunities like now in mining, there's opportunity in Namibia. There's gas that has been lent. Now, it's all a matter of saying within the ladies, hey, ladies, do we have any ladies in Namibia? I want to pursue, I want to explore businesses. And within that, you can just go and visit, explore. There's somebody you know, rather than just going, you don't know anyone. You know, there's somebody within the network you go. So for me, that's really important.
It is powerful. I mean, and being someone who is in a network themselves definitely can attest to the importance and the power of
And the
networks.
power, yes.
Absolutely. Over to you, Majita. What was the aha moment for you?